Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. Welcome to part 3 of how to maintain your Toyota. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the brakes for your Toyota. We're also going to be talking about spark plugs for your Toyota. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Turn on your bell notifications so you wouldn't miss out new videos. If you haven't watched part 1 and part 2 of this series, you can find them on the channel page, or I'll leave them in the description below. And without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright folks, let's talk about some brakes. Now, I work at a dealership, so these are the easiest parts to get for demonstration. Brakes, you can buy whatever. But I'll tell you this, don't cheap out on your brakes. Buy good brakes. There's a lot of good aftermarket out there, and there's the dealership, of course. But shop around, read reviews, listen. A lot of people have a lot of experience with brakes, but if you don't know and you're not sure, or you're at your mechanic and he tells you, well, I have this, don't go for the cheapest. They're your brakes. It's a safety maintenance item. Buy good quality brakes. Now at the dealership, and this is my experience because I work at a dealership. I don't want to keep saying dealership, but this is where I work. This is what I know. So this is my experience for you. You have to replace the pads and either resurface the rotor, basically renew the surface of the rotor, or replace the whole rotor. Older Toyotas, probably before 2007, 2008, we used to resurface every single rotor. You could resurface it 2-3 times before it reaches the point where you can't do it anymore. However, newer Toyotas, we're seeing more and more you gotta replace the rotor. Now, the prices have dropped at the dealership level, but be honest with you, if you're gonna replace the rotor every single time, get a little cheaper aftermarket. But always compare, always shop around. People always ignore the dealership completely. Shop around. Call the dealership. Hey, how much are the pads? How much are the rotors? Then call your local parts store. How much are the pads? If it's $5 difference, I'd go with original parts. They're made for your car. If the price difference, and sometimes they're even the same, and that's what kills me. People go buy non-original parts. They're paying the same price as the original. If you're gonna pay the same, then might as well put original parts with a good warranty. So that's something for you. I can't recommend a brand. This is what I use every single day. This is what I would put on my cars. Not because they're the cheapest, but because, again, I just walk across the shop and get them from parts. That's very simple for me. But if you maintain your car at a dealership, I will tell you one thing that you gotta know about. Toyota sells 2 kinds of brake pads. These brake pads are the original, the ones that came from the factory. They're semi-metallic. They're the best pad will ever be for any Toyota. That's from my opinion, professional and personal. Then they sell these pads, which are identical, but they're called economy or value, or some people call them ceramic because they are ceramic pads. Now, I'm not gonna go into what the difference, what's better, you can Google that. But I'm gonna tell you this. The ceramics value economy pads from Toyota, they're made to compete with aftermarket. So these are gonna be cheap. This is super expensive. These are cheaper. I'd always price shop for these. Unless you want perfect brakes, which by the way, there's nothing wrong with these. They work great. You just gotta, they sell also a little special grease for these so they wouldn't be noisy. They're awesome pads, we use them all the time. But you gotta understand, you gotta ask your dealership, are we using value pads or original pads? Because unfortunately, there are some dealers out there that'll sell you this for the price of this. No, don't accept that. Now that you know, you ask. And for the DIY, for the shoppers out there, I'll tell you a little trick. The economy or value, they will have AZ in the part number. The original pads will just have a part number. The pads are identical. There is nothing, they even have Toyota stamped on them. They look identical. Why? I'm not a sale, I don't know. Personally, I'd use those in a heartbeat. They're good pads, they're cheaper, and they say Toyota. Life's good. I'm gonna tell you one more thing about Toyota pads, something I see all the time, especially DIY mechanics or even independent shops do. They take the original pad off the car, the worn one, throw it in the garbage, put the new ones on. Don't do that. There's something called a shim kit, which are the metal plates that sit on the pads. Most aftermarket pads, they'll come with these shims glued on. And that's usually why these aftermarket pads, some of them are noisy and they make squealing and they make noise and they'll drive you nuts. Not all of them, but some of them. Now here's a top tip for you, mechanical wise, even for DIY, even if you service your car independent mechanic, bring this to their attention. Most independent mechanics, they're awesome guys. I'm not bringing them down. They work on every single make and model. I applaud these guys. They're awesome. They know about every single car. I only work on Toyota Lexus Scion. So I know I am a product specialist. I know everything about these cars inside and out. The guys in independent shops, they know everything about everybody, and that gets very challenging. There's one little trick. This shim kit, you paid for this when you bought your car new. Why are you throwing it away? Transfer it over to the new pad, and then you don't have to buy a new one. Or if you have an aftermarket one, I would go as much as peel the glued one and put your originals with some good grease, and you will have the same result, probably for cheaper. These cost money. Some of them go up to 50 bucks. Why are you throwing them away? At least save them. Don't just throw them away. What if the aftermarket pad you put in makes noise and you don't like it? You want to go back to original. Guess what? Now you're buying shims because you throw them away or mechanic throw them away. Always ask for these back. And I'll go to say, always ask for your old parts back. If a mechanic tells you we can't before you do the job, tell them then I don't want you to work on my car. I love it when customers ask for their old parts back. Yes, I replaced your part. Here's your old part. Look at it, inspect it. Maybe you want to keep it as a souvenir. Maybe you're going to throw it out the garbage the minute you leave. It's your part. It came off of your car that you paid for. Ask for your old parts back. Because this is a very common one. People come in, oh, I put some cheap pads on my car, now it makes noise. I want to put originals. Well, guess what? Now we need pads, we need rotors, and we need shims. Well, why do I need shims? Because you throw them away. That doesn't make sense. The next topic is, oh, this is a good one. Brake fluid. Every time you go to the dealership, oh, you need a brake flush. Oh, you need a brake replacement. You need to renew your brake fluid. You need to do this with your brake fluid, you know, and it looks dark and it's this and that. Let's talk about brake fluid scientifically first. Brake fluid, beautiful thing. Makes our car stop so we don't crash into each other. But brake fluid over time, it absorbs moisture, starts rusting things. It has high moisture content. That's how you're supposed to test it. Not just by looking at the color. That doesn't tell you much. Some brake fluids are dark to begin with, especially DOT4, and when we get into the higher grade brake fluids, they're dark to begin with, so that's not indicative. Moisture content. Now, average industry, every 3 years these things usually reach their high moisture content where you need to replace the fluid. Toyota does not specify when you should replace it. But they do tell you to inspect it though. Most people ask, well, what do I do? I can get it cheaper here, cheaper there. It's brake fluid. This is very overpriced. It's probably made by I don't know who. It's just brake fluid. It's either .3, .4. Buy the same fluid from anywhere. Don't buy it. Don't buy this. This is overpriced. Not even most dealerships don't use this. They use some generic brand. So yes, if your mechanic is telling you your moisture content is high, you need to replace the brake fluid. Replace it. But I'll tell you one thing. How long are you keeping this car? If you're keeping this car for 5, 6, 7 years, don't do it. It's not worth it. If you're keeping your car 10, 15, 20 years, then oh yeah, do it, because you're going to reap the benefits down the road. But if you're only keeping it 5, 7 years, forget about this. This is not going to give you any effect in 5 to 7 years. That's the God honest truth, people. Moving on to spark plugs. There are two main kinds of spark plugs in Toyotas. Now, there's a different plug for each car, but there's two main categories, if you would. You got your iridium and non-iridium. I'm going to call it non-iridium because there's like 7 different kinds. So here's the bottom line. If your car is made right around 2003, 2004 and up, you have iridium plugs. These guys, 10 years or 120,000. This time I'm going to tell you the 10 years, not so much. 120,000. A lot of people love to do spark plugs. Oh, I'm going to do them earlier because I like to take care of my cars. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're wasting your money, sir. I'm sorry, you are. These plugs, when I take them out at 120,000, they look exactly the same. That's the truth. If your car was well maintained, with good oil, good fuel used, good overall maintenance, these will not go bad. That's the honest truth. There's one exception to that though. 2005 to 2015 Tacoma, and then 2003 to 2009 4Runners with a V6. They use, most people don't know this, I have to literally beg people to do this. They do not use iridium plugs. Why? I could not tell you. They use the 30,000 mile plugs, and I see people go 120 on 30,000 mile plugs. Now these, when you take them out, they're gone. They look horrible. If you own a 2005 to 2015 Tacoma, or you own a 2003 to 2009 4Runner with a V6, 30,000 miles or 3 years. Sorry, you're not included in the 120 party, but that's fine. They're not really hard to do. I actually encourage you to do it yourself. As far as brands, you gotta buy the right plug. The brand is less important than the kind of plug. I'm not gonna go into the different kinds of plugs and why this spark plug is different than that. I'm just gonna tell you this. If you're not sure, buy them from the dealership. Shop online for the same part, you'll find it cheaper. But stick with two brands, NGK and Denso. Most of the time you'll find the same plug for half the price because it doesn't come with this beautiful Toyota box, but it's the same plug made by the same company. So why not? Again, shop around, do your research. Don't change it at 100, don't change it at 50, don't change it at 60. 120, and if you own these few cars, 30,000 miles. Now if you're an older car, some of them are 60,000, some of them are 30,000, and it goes from there. If your car is 2,000 and older, I do it every 30. If you have one of the very few cars that are different, that are not 100% Toyota, I'll give you an example. If you own that Yaris IA we talked about, the Mazda, that one gets it every 75,000 miles. If you own a 2020 Supra, which is a BMW, that's every 40,000. If you own the Subaru, the Scion FRS or the Toyota 86, that one gets it every 60,000. Those are the only exceptions, other than the certain Tacomas and 4Runners, and then everybody else. Most likely, modern Toyotas, RAV4, Highlander, Camry, Corolla, everybody else, 120. Don't change it a mile less. You'll have no problems. So this is going to be a wrap for today's video for this part. Stay tuned for future parts that will cover more subjects on your Toyota maintenance. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Also, leave a comment below if you have any questions, you have any comments. You're also welcome to email me at thecarcarenut@gmail.com. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have a wonderful day.